Hey Sean, do you have an update on Devontae and any other injuries you guys dealt with
I
yesterday?
don't yet. I haven't had a chance to get with Reggie. Guys are kind of still trickling in and out. And so, I was, just talking to Devontae after the game yesterday. He seemed to be in good spirits, but kind of like last week, which I appreciate your guys' patience with me. I'll have more updates on Wednesday when we reconnect.
After the game, you said that it looks like Matthew's playing confidently. In which ways does that show up for you?
Well, I think the decision making, I think the ability to get us in and out of the huddle. I mean, I think it's reflected in a lot of instances on every single snap, and every single snap has a different story. But I think in a lot of instances, just the way that he's able to manage and navigate throughout the course of the game. I thought what was really cool is that he leads us on 3 touchdown drives to start the game. We have the three and out, then we have kind of a 2 minute type of sequence where, I thought I got a little bit of aggressive and then I thought, we kind of settled back down, and then I thought he regained total command and control of the game in the second half. And in a lot of instances, what I thought was great was, they did a great job of cutting it to a one possession game on two separate occasions. After you go up 21-0, they cut it to 21-14, then they cut it to 28-20, which was a great play by Verse to block the extra point. But on each of those sequences, Matthew leads us on touchdown drives. Some of the checks, there's just so many different things. I could go on and on, Sarah, but I think it's the overall command, the confidence, the way that he's getting different people involved, in the way at which he is getting through progressions or getting the ball where it's supposed to be based on what the defensive structures elicit. And, I think you guys kind of all see that as well.
I know you're not actually in the huddle, but either from talking to some of Matthew's teammates or just from what you can see, Devontae explained to us that even in really tense moments, gotta have it. Matthew's very calm in the huddle. What do you see about kind of his presence and how that affects his teammates?
Yeah, that's who he is. I think you in a lot of instances you take on the personality of your leader, and I think with him leading the way, I think the toughness, the poise, the enjoyment for celebrating others or just competing. I think that's become in a lot of instances the identity of this football team, and I think that largely stems from his leadership and his positive influence and impact on others. But I do appreciate being able to kind of listen to his communication, whether it's in mic'd up moments or even in practice, where, Mike LaFleur will kind of send it in and I can kind of be in closer proximity to the huddle. And so that's been who he always is. And I just think his vibe gives a confidence and a command because, you're kind of looking at him and he instills a belief that, we've got a good chance with him leading the way.
And then have you guys made a decision about kicker for this week?
Yeah, here's what's good is number one, I think the first thing I want to acknowledge is how much appreciation I have for Alex Ward's contributions to us. He's done a really good job over these last few years and couldn't have handled himself with more class and just been really that to me impressed me about him. We let him go this morning. Jake will be our long snapper. As far as the kickers, we feel really fortunate. I have a lot of belief in Josh Carty. I think he's a guy that's going to have an incredibly bright future. We're going to continue to work with him. But in the meantime, we will continue to go with Mevis as our kicker. And so did a good job going 6 for 6 on the extra points. I was pleased with that. But Josh is, again, similar to Alex, Josh has been a pro about it. He's going to continue to get better. I think the future is really bright for him. And he'll be on the roster. He just will not be kicking against Seattle unless something unforeseen happens to Mevis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stu? Hey Sean, the selflessness of the team that you were asked about post game the other day feels like the tight end room especially really encapsulates that. Just I know obviously that probably plays a big part in you being able to do the things you've done, especially in 13 personnel. But just what stands out about that group and their selflessness and just the overall personality of that room?
I think what you just said, the thing that I think I love as much as anything about this team is and Devontae talked to you guys a little bit about it after the game, which is so cool to me, is the genuine enjoyment for other successes. You guys can see behind me, we talk about the work, with the we part of it, and we use acronyms to teach, but, like the enjoyment of other successes, the enjoyment of the challenges or some of the moments that, being able to persevere through adversity. And I think that group epitomizes it, Stu, and how happy they get for one another, it was really cool for Colby to be able to get one yesterday. The general Davis Allen coming up with one. Higgs makes his plays. Ferg makes his plays. But, they've just got a great vibe. Their coach has a great vibe too. Scooter Huff is an excellent football coach. He's a great teacher. He's a great coach, but I think he's got kind of a disposition and a personality that really brings out the best in those guys. And, I love that group, but I love this team. And I think in a lot of ways, they encapsulate a lot of the cool shit that this team's about.
And then at running back, it was a more even split between Kyron and Blake. I know there are a lot of factors that go into that. Does that signal any change in roles or competition at all, or was that more just dictated by the looks the 49ers were giving in the flow of the game?
Oh, no, we got two backs we feel great about. Kyron is the lead dog, but I think, when you look at it, I think our skill players have done an excellent job of, no skill player played more than 39 snaps, I want to say yesterday. Kyron had 39. I think Colby had 39. And so when these guys are really able to maximize it, but Blake did an excellent job. They're both going to play. I think we're at our best when you're getting tight ends, receivers, and multiple backs involved. We've got great depth. We got a lot of confidence in all these guys. Kyron's a starting running back, but man, I got a ton of confidence in Blake Corum. He's only getting better. And this is a way of really just being able to say, this is going to be better for Kyron throughout the course of 17 games. And if you earn the right to play after, I think Blake has done a great job. And, Ron Gould does a really good job with that group as a whole. And shoot, if Ronnie needed to get in there, there's a lot of confidence in Ronnie, but no changes, nothing like that. I just think the coaches have done an excellent job of being able to, have a rotation that's in alignment with maximizing, the total group, whether that's Yarber, Shieldhouse, and Rob Calabrese with the receivers, whether that's Scooter with the tight ends, or whether that's Ron Gould with the runners. And I've really been pleased with the way that Ryan Wendell and Zach Cromer and Brian Allen have developed the depth of our offensive line. Knock on wood, we've been able to stay relatively healthy, but you've seen Justin Dedich play. You've seen Bo Limmer have to play. You've seen Warren McClendon do a good job, but I just love the depth of this group.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Gary. Hey, Sean.
Hey.
Is there any part of you yesterday when with a new kicker with Mevis where you were getting into situations where you think let's let him have a shot at a field goal just to get him that out of the way? Or
yeah,
I'm just curious if there's anything.
Not during the game, because like I would say this, the last drive that we had, if we didn't get, once we got kind of in scoring position, you talk about, all right, do you if it comes up to a fourth down where they kind of jumped off sides, or, if we weren't able to get that first down that allowed us to be able to take a knee, do you try to get some work for that operation? You talk about it, but you're always balancing, your work for also, I just think, the classy way to be able to handle these things. And so talked about it. It wasn't something. So yes, I did think about it, but we ultimately weren't going to do it. But yes, that thought did cross my mind, to answer your question.
Mm-hmm. The Seahawks, I know you're going to start diving into them later throughout the week, but
yep.
First impressions of what they're doing up there.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned it, Gary, kind of the rhythm is as soon as I finish up with you guys, but they're as complete of team as I've seen, just from afar. And we've had some crossover film, but I'd be probably, a little bit out of timing to really dive into it, but I do know that they're excellent in all three phases. And it's going to be a great challenge, and this is what you love about this league. And, we'll be ready to go, and we'll be excited about our week of preparation, but complete, excellent in, all three phases, got great coaching, great personnel, great schemes. So, what you're looking for, they got, which is why they're considered one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league right now. And, we're excited about the challenge.
When you came over, initially from Washington, if I recall, you had a pretty good reputation for working with tight ends. And now you've got four of them. I mean, what's that like for you as a guy who kind of cut his teeth as a play caller, with Washington, to now have four of them at your disposal?
Yeah, it's great. I think the thing that's cool is it always starts with the players. Everybody wants to make a big narrative, but you just said it. I'm glad you asked it. The only reason you can do it is because you have four players that are capable of doing it, in Tyler Higbee, in Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, and Terrence Ferguson. And then you got a coach who does a great job with that group. And they're smart, they're conscientious, they can play all the spots, and it's It's awesome. I did cut my teeth, as a tight end coach, Gary. It was a lot of fun. I was very fortunate to be around some great players, like the Chris Coolies, Fred Davis. Logan Paulson was one of my all-time favorites, working with Jordan Reed and Niles Paul. So Vernon Davis before the last couple years. So it was a lot of fun. And this does bring back some good memories. This league is cyclical. This game is cyclical, but it's about those four individuals that we do have. And the coaches have done a good job of putting together plans. I give Mike LaFleur and our offensive staff a ton of credit.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Wyatt.
Hey, Sean. Matthew's been super productive against the blitz over the last couple weeks and really all season. What makes him, so able to, dissect those blitzes and know where to go with the ball?
You just said it. To be able to understand, all right, where are my quick element throws if I need it? What are the outlets? What are the issues that they're presenting from a protection and from a coverage contour perspective? But a guy that's in command, and I think that's a big part of it. And, before we get into it, we better be ready to handle that stuff this week. But he's been awesome. And it's not exclusive to against the blitz. He's been pretty damn good in all phases, and we're really lucky to be able to have him lead the way. But, I think you kind of answered it with your question, Wyatt, in terms of recognizing it, deciphering it, and then understanding what kind of response is elicited based on, what the defense presents from a pressure, from a protection, and how we need to straighten things up, and then ultimately what they're doing coverage-wise behind it and where the voids and vacancies are presented if you are going to rush more than four.
And, despite that success that he's had, teams seem to, be bringing a lot of pressure regardless. From your perspective, why do you think teams are continuing to do that?
Well, I think in a lot of the situations, some of the numbers get skewed where people play heavy box counts, and I'd be interested to see exactly, what the stat is in terms of, you get into some of those tight red areas, that's always going to be considered blitz once you're inside the 5, and when he's hit a lot of those touchdown passes. So, there's certain situations that arise throughout the course of the game where that is kind of a universal approach or a consistent theme that you see within the framework of each of the defensive identities. So I think he's handling the different situations where blitzes are more likely to occur really well over the last handful of weeks, and he's handling the other situations where maybe that's not as prevalent really well also. But I think it's really just a reflection of the complete body of work that he's had.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Adam.
Sean, what did you think of Matthew's shimmy yesterday, and what does that tell you about just kind of his level of enjoyment right now?
I loved it. It was swaggy. It was authentic, and it is unscripted. We'll have to compare him and Steph. Steph looks a little looser in his shoulder shimmy, but we reference him a lot in this building with the respect and reverence. And I've gotten to be friends with Steve Kerr, and so being back in the Bay Area, that might have been a little tip of the cap to old Steph. But I thought it looked awesome, and it's a great job by him being able to hit Colby for his 4th of the day.
Darious 12 snaps yesterday. Is he still kind of playing through that shoulder?
I think he was, the answer is probably so, where maybe not quite back up to, full speed. Felt like having him up even in a limited capacity was better. You mentioned it, Forbes and Jacoby took the majority of the workload. That's a physical game. He did a nice job with the 12 snaps that he did have, but that was why it was reflected in a little bit lesser workload. And we'll hopefully continue to see that grow a little bit while we maximize the depth of that group that we have.
You've talked a lot the last 8 months or so just about how much Cooper Kupp has meant to you personally. But what role did he play in helping to develop the offense and culture that you were building early in your tenure here?
Yeah, I mean, an instrumental role. You think about when I think seen is better than said. And when you talk about a guy that, represented a lot of the things that have been right that we want to be able to abide by, Cooper did that on a day-to-day basis. And it wasn't, he knew when to be able to speak up at the right time, but it was through his work. And he modeled the way. And I think that's really cool. He's got incredible competitive character. He's got incredible, just competitive stamina and work capacity, and then who he is as a human being. You guys know from getting to know him what a special human he was. And there's a certain type of person. We want different personalities. I think that's what's beautiful about the collection of people that come together for a football team. But I do think that when people are thrust into leadership roles, there's a certain example and there's a certain standard that just becomes kind of, what the norms are and what's expected. And he's elevated a lot of people in this building. I think he'd be the first to tell you got a chance to really learn from some great guys when he first came in, whether that was the way that he and Robert Woods kind of took over that room, and even watching, Brandon Cooks, watching the way Whitworth led, and then how he organically and authentically just kind of grew into, a guy that was a captain every single year that, was consistently impacting and influencing positive change.
I know you've coached coached against a lot of former players, but is it going to be weird to just be game planning and seeing him on tape this week?
Yeah, it's happened a lot. There's a lot of love. I think this is about the Rams versus the Seahawks, but you don't deny and you're not naive to what this guy's meant to the franchise. And his rookie year coincides with the first year that I was fortunate enough to get here. So there's a lot of touch points. There's a lot of love. And so I think you definitely acknowledge that. But at the end of the day, you still do have a job and a responsibility to the collective. And, we're going to do the best that we can to try to be able to slow Seattle down, whether that's offensively, defensively, or in the kicking game. And, he looked good yesterday. I saw he had two, big catches. The one that he, great run after the catch. And, we'll see if we can prevent things like that from happening.
Thanks, Sean.
You got it, man.
Eric.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for doing this as always.
Of course.
You mentioned you haven't dove into the tape in terms of, the Seahawks and what they're doing this year, but this is the third time you're going to face a Mike McDonald defense as the head coach of the Seahawks. Is there an overarching theme in terms of his approach on defense, and how does that differ from what they did when Pete was there?
Well, yeah, I mean, the overall just foundational philosophies are different, but they were both sound defenses that are predicated on physicality, a style of play, being able to do things fundamentally that are in alignment with consistency over time. He does a great job, going against him in Baltimore. What I think you see is what I always respect when I go against people is, all right, there's a style of play. There's a way that their group plays that he's checking that box. And then there's an understanding of the intent of what you're trying to get done. I can see an intent of understanding how to disrupt what the offense is trying to get done, whether that's on 50-50 downs, whether that's on, heavier pass down situations. There's a coordination, there's a collaboration between all three levels. There's getting guys in favorable opportunities and situations that accentuate their skill sets. So all the things that I hold in high regard that dictates and elicits a tough defense to go against and a well-coached and a well-coordinated outfit. Mike McDonald's checking the box on it. Adam Durde does a great job. They're really well coached. They got great players on all three levels, and I think they use them in a manner that always makes you feel like you're on your heels offensively. And and we're looking forward to the challenge. I can't wait.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
We're right with Dennis and Maria.
Coach, when your team get out on top of an opponent the way you did yesterday against the 49ers, how does that dictate your schemes for the rest of the game?
Well, I give them credit. I thought they did a good job of staying patient. I think how good that team is. It's a great atmosphere and environment. There's going to be ebbs and flows throughout the game. And so credit to them for being able to cut it to a 2-possession game and then ultimately a 1-possession game with their first drive of the second half. But I love the way that our group responded. I thought we had some key stops, but to be able to play complementary ball, I think we've seen that each of the last few weeks, which, when you jump out to a lead, but then it's about being able to sustain it and strain through those 60 minutes, or if you've got to play after that. But to go 3 and out defensively right off the jump, offensively to go score for the defense and for our defense to get the 3 and out stop, great job. And then the offense goes and scores again. And then for Landman, when they have a good positive play, to be able to play through the echo of the whistle, get the punch out, and then Kitch ends up getting the recovery to allow us to be able to go up 3 scores was big. And then I thought later on we got some key stops, but it's big for the momentum. You want to be able to start fast, finish strong, and ultimately sustain throughout the middle parts of the game. And there's always going to be things that we can improve on. And I think the growth that we still think can be had with this group is what's fun about, continuing to seek that out. And we got the right kind of guys that are inspired to be able to grow and, stay humble through some of the success, but also, stay hungry and understand that, it's about being able to go like this.
In the follow-up, last year you guys were coming out of fighting to get out of a deficit. Now you're playing ahead. What's been the key for your team this season?
Well, I think ultimately the players and coaches have done a great job. I think the players have brought stuff to life. I do think that, some of those scars that we've had, whether it's a tough loss against Philly or against San Fran, has strengthened us because we have the right kinds of people. So I've loved that. I think we've been able to stay healthier. There is an element of, health is a factor. We've been healthier. I think we have some more depth this year. But at the end of the day, this is our players have done an excellent job of being able to take what the coaches are trying to communicate and give them clarity. And they've brought these plans to life, and they're building and they're growing and they're continuing to come together, and they love playing together. They love playing for one another. And they love the challenges that every single week presents. And this week will be a continuation of that. But I really enjoy this group, and not necessarily interested in what's happened before, but how do we be totally and completely present and have a great week this week? But it has been fun through the first 9 games because of the people you're doing it with.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Maria.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, Maria.
Quick one for you. The calm that you talk about with Matthew Stafford in the huddle, you look at somebody like Mevis, who had never kicked in an NFL game before. Does the calm kind of rub off on the players, or how do you sort of rein in all the excitement for somebody like him who it was his first time?
Yeah, I think you just give him a confidence and a belief. And I think, he had some good experiences that he could draw on, going back to his career at Missouri or even in the UFL. And, so I think each of these guys have an understanding. I think you talk about, what is required for you to get into the mindset and mentality for you to be able to execute your job, and what's required of a quarterback and a kicker is going to be different than versus BY on the edges or, a running back. And so what's so unique about football is I think there's different demeanors, dispositions, and mindsets and mentalities, but there is a consistent theme that exists between all of those. There's a poise, there's an ability to be able to reload and reset one snap at a time. And the kicking thing is a little bit different because it's about, being able to consistently replicate that with the surrounding factors. And thought he did a heck of a job going 6 for 6. And I think Matthew's, demeanor does rub off on a lot of guys, but I think it's whatever's required. I think part of that is our job as a coach is to help them be able to find that and identify that for themselves as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Appreciate you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
When you're in the huddle with Matthew, how would you describe his demeanor?
Panicked. Yeah, the guy doesn't know what's going on. He just seems kind of not in the moment, kind of aloof. No, I'm just kidding. Matthew's he's the ultimate competitor, but when he talks, like whenever he's ripping off some of these play calls, which are a lot of words, you can tell it's just muscle memory at this point. And when he gets in there, whether it's loud or we can hear him or can't hear him or anything like that, like you can tell just his command of the offense. And I think it just kind of has a calming effect on everyone. Be like, listen, all right, this guy is dialed into whatever he's doing. He's the ultimate professional, and that's just kind of the way he's been going about his whole career.
You guys haven't had to come back in a lot of games this season, but in the past, it's something he's done very well in his career. Do you feel that sense of calm you were talking about, especially in those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. I always go back to that kind of last drive in the Super Bowl. It was just, everything kind of starts with him, and just the way he calls plays, the way he gets in, gets out, kind of gives little reminders on, whether it's formationally or what's supposed to happen in the play. Everything just kind of comes off as so natural, where it's you don't really have a choice but to kind of just calm down, like, all right, listen, what do I have on this play? What's my assignment? What's my job? What's my technique? And then try to go execute it to the best of your ability.
Are you seeing him have fun this year? Maybe more than in others?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think he's feeling good, and he's out there, and he loves kind of talking his version of smack and the way he gets after it, and just he just plays with an enthusiasm that it's it just kind of rubs off on you. Like, man, this is a fun thing. We're out here playing a kid's game for for a reason. I think he's definitely one of the only guys I want to do it with.
How do you describe his version of smack?
You're gonna have to ask him, but it's it's just very in the moment, whatever he sees coming, whether it's a little shimmy, a chest pound or whatever it is. whatever he's feeling at the moment, it just comes out.
Thank you.
Adam?
Tiana, Rob's got this. Um, Rob, how's it feel to no longer be the last St. Louis Ram?
Yeah, it feels good. It was definitely good to see see Jake in the building, and kind of brought back a lot of memories. But it was definitely good to have him back.
You had a big cleanup block on the screen to Puka there in the second quarter. Looked like no issues with the ankle on that one. Just kind of how are you feeling after being back for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I feel good. I think if you ask anybody on a Monday after a Sunday night game, you're always going to have your little nicks and bruises, but nothing a sauna and a cold tub can't fix. And we'll be back out there for practice. Just working on getting better and better. And I think with the play you're referencing, if you go watch Higbee's block, I think he was taking two guys out. With one, I just happened to be stumbling my way forward, so it kind of looked like I did a lot, but it was mainly just Higbee.
Um, there was a clip that went around before Cooper moved to Seattle of you and several teammates out there at the warehouse saying goodbye to him on his last workout before the move. Like, what do you remember about kind of the scene that day and just kind of the emotions of it?
So his last day, I actually was not there. That was I think Coleman and Tyler and
Okay.
a couple other boys, but just it's never saying goodbye, obviously, but it's obviously things happen in this league, and guys go to different places in their career, and so I'm always going to be a huge Cooper Kupp fan either way, and so I want to see him succeed as much as he can. Maybe not as much this next week, but it'll be great to see him.
On days like this, do you try to go out of your way to go make sure you see him before the game, or you wait for after the game? Like, how do you kind of manage, that those type of reunions?
Yeah, no, it's I think it's business as usual, as I'm sure he's going about his process and preparation for this game, and I think a lot of us are going to be doing that, and then after the game it'll be all hugs and smiles and great seeing him and his family. So it's nothing, but I think it's business as usual.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep, thanks. Do.
Rob, a couple weeks ago, when you came back from injury, you got the chance to greet your family on the field pregame. Just what was that like? And just in general, being back after, being sidelined for as long as you were.
Yeah, no, it was especially that game is traffic was a little worse, so they got to the stadium a little later, and so usually at that time I'm kind of already in there, and I just hadn't seen him yet, so I was she was like, should I still come down? I was like, yeah, come on down. So I could at least say hi to everybody. And they came out in the little, all the matching dresses, and it was, obviously super cute. And that's, to me, what it's all about. And so for them to kind of come down on the field and say hi and, kind of share a moment, and it was pretty cool to have that captured. And, it's something we do every home game. So
When we talked to Sean when you were going through that rehab process, he kind of indicated that you were honest with him about, return to performance versus return to play. Just as much of a competitor as you are and as much as you want to be out there, like how difficult was that for you in terms of just being transparent and having those conversations?
yeah, it's tough. I kind of everything in this league and, kind of raised and taught to, kind of maybe hold some of that back. But it was, if anything, it's just a testament to the environment Sean has created about like, listen, I can be open and honest with you, and that's something that he preaches. But maybe it's a hard thing to do. But it was. I know Sean's got my back, through thick and thin, and we've been at this a long time, me and him. So I was just completely honest with him about how I was feeling mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it need be. And I think we all kind of came up with the best possible plan to get out there and to play the best ball.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, dude. Wyatt.
Hey, Rob. Matthew's been super productive against the blitz this year, and you guys have obviously given him the time in the pocket to do that. What would you say has been the key to the offensive line as a whole, picking up those blitzes successfully?
Yeah, number one, it starts with communication. I think it comes through our center Coleman Shelton and Matthew having an absolute ownership of everything. Whether we're right or wrong on what we adjust. I say we, like I don't have anything to do with that. I'm just listening for calls and I have an understanding what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's between center and the quarterback, getting us right, and they've been spot on the whole year. And so a lot of that's just preparation during the week and going over it. And same thing with Matthew calling plays and Coleman studying blitzes and just as Matthew does. And so they're on the same page. They know what's going on. And, that's kind of number one, the biggest thing, making sure everybody's on the same page.
And does having a veteran quarterback back there and a line that's, played with him before, across the board, help you guys understand, the timing of each individual play and how much time you guys need to give him?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, the nature of the offensive line, our back is to him. So we just have to have an understanding or a feel or kind of know where he's going to be, where he wants to be. Some plays are going to be a little deeper, some plays are a little shallower, some plays obviously are running, pulling up, whatever it is. So it just goes into your study, your film study, and then just overall just experience with the guy about like, all right, on certain plays, on certain situations, does he want to hang back, step up late, step up early? Obviously, some things happen on the football field where it's not going to be perfect the whole time, but there's nobody better than Matthew to have, standing behind just slinging that thing, especially the way he's going right now.
Thank you.
Yep. Gary?
Rob, you're commanding this video conference like Stafford commands the huddle, it sounds like.
That's right. I got it.
You know, with what you said about being out and how you handled that, here at the midpoint of the season, in retrospect, was that maybe a little bit of a blessing in disguise in terms of your ability to stay healthy and feel good through the rest of the season?
Yeah. I think there's always a silver lining in things. Obviously I don't want to have to miss those, what was it, 3 games, 4 weeks of the bye week right there. But you make the best of the situation you have in front of you. I didn't think I could go out there and, perform well enough, for those weeks. So we kind of gave it the best possible chance to go out there and kind of get things right. And then with the, the short week, the Thursday night, and then 2 more games until the bye week, it just kind of, I guess, made more sense, even though that was probably one of the harder parts is, I hate being out there or not out there with the boys out there when they're grinding and hurting on Monday morning. And so whether it is a blessing or not, it's what happened. So we're focused on what's coming up next.
And then what's it like playing next to Kevin Dotson?
Oh, it's awesome. I love Dot. Dot is he's a big personality. He's a big man. He's a stud. There's just, that's the absolute easiest way to put it. He's he's a big man. He's a big, strong man. He moves 3 techniques, and that's kind of the kind of running joke about with me and Coleman, got about K Dot, where it's maybe something goes on and we'll kind of put our hands up and be like, hey, listen, this man still moves 3 techniques. All right. So get off his back right now. But it's awesome. He's you can really tell he's kind of stepping in and, identifying fronts as we're walking up. So we're all kind of communicating the same way. And he's out there having fun with it. And he's just a big, strong physical presence and, one of the funniest guys on the team. So it's definitely awesome to have him next to me.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Omar, thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys had a good day against Christian McCaffrey the first time around, but how nice was it to be able to limit him in the run and actually get to enjoy it on the film watch today after a win?
It was good. It's always good, just we've been priding ourselves on really like these past couple, really like this whole season, just being good against the run, making teams one-dimensional. So, but a back like him, especially, is in a team like that, is definitely, it feels good to know, like, we held them to, again, under 100.
What would you say is the biggest difference for you guys in run defense this year?
I think last year, towards the end of the year, we kind of found who we were in like the run defense game. Kind of found like how we like to play off each other and stuff like that. And I just think like throughout the off season and then into this training camp and then this season, we kind of perfected on, how we play off of one another on the first, second, and third level. So um, I think it's really just that.
Yesterday, Davis Allen was talking about how he can kind of feel Matthew's energy and impact even on the defense. I'm curious, like how you guys feel his energy kind of rub off on your side of the ball.
Uh, yeah, it's like you got a chance when the ball in 9 hands, so it's just having a quarterback like that on your team, like it's always just a boost. Like it's just a boost. Like you just know, like you always got a chance, like no matter what.
How strange is it going to be, preparing and then in the moment getting run blocks from Cooper Kupp on Sunday?
Um, I think it's gonna be. I mean, I was only with Coop for a year, so I think it'll be for other guys that have been winning for so long. I think it'll be kind of like weird and kind of, they kind of might have like a little like I don't even know how to explain it. Just like a kind of like a not a bittersweet moment, but just like flashbacks of like, dang, like he used to be with us. But
Mhm.
I think it'll be fun, just being able to, compete against him, and it's all love for him, no matter what.
Thanks, Omar.
Yeah.
Hey Omar, just where do you feel like you've grown the most, in year two, and how has that, shown up for you on the field this year?
Um, I'd probably say I think I've grown the most and really just kind of like my patience and my poise of just keeping the process. Um, just kind of like letting the process, let everything just come to me, not chasing anything, not feeling like not trying to choke like the opportunity or anything out, just like kind of like letting things come to me, letting things flow and stuff like that. And just being present each and every, not only each and every game, but like just each and every snap.
You mentioned, you know, playing off of one another. What's it like playing off of, or has it been like playing off of Nate Landman in particular? What's he brought to the, middle of the defense playing alongside you?
It's been amazing. Like his energy and his juice, it's like it's nothing like it, to be honest. And it's just like we just kind of got like it's just so natural between us and how we just play off each other. Like some plays I might be fast and he might be slower and play off of me, or like some plays he might be fast and I just play off of him, and we might just make each other right on one play, or it might just like it just all be coming together. And it's just crazy, like the kind of the chemistry that we got. And then just you could tell like the energy that he bring, and like the landman punch and stuff like that. It's been good. It's been amazing to play against him, play on side of him.
You mentioned those instincts, but what about the communication between you guys as well? I mean, as much as there's like that natural intuition that you guys have at times on the field, like what stands out about the communication between you two?
Um, just really good communication. Like I think we both kind of like smart ball players. So like we kind of in different situations we kind of think like, okay, like what we think coming here or something like that, or even if it's kind of like things throughout the week that we've been you guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Even just things throughout the week, in game that, we just reminding each other about like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. And then even like post snap and stuff like that, just the communication with like different pushes and coverages or anything like that, or just what we seeing and stuff like that. It's been real good.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'll jump in there. Omar, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We know this call got pushed back a little bit because I think you were getting a massage. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, what have you learned in here your midpoint of season two? in terms of taking care of your body? And is that any different than last year, or have you taken steps to kind of put some things in place that'll help you, weather a full season as a starter?
Yeah. I think I really like last year I kind of perfected like just like my routine and my schedule, like especially like towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like this year I really just been keeping like the same schedule and routine, maybe like adding like a little things here and there, but just keeping that same schedule and routine of, stretching, sauna, cold tub, hot tub. The hot tub and cold tub is one thing that I added because last year I ain't do it at all. But this year I added it in, so that's been good for me. And the massages too, just keeping my body fresh, uh, helping my body turn over as fast as possible, as soon as possible. That's been, just the focus for me for like from week to week.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about Christian McCaffrey. You guys have played backs like Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. The Seahawks, at least looking at their stat sheet from Sunday, it looks like they do it a little bit more by committee, not necessarily a kind of a superstar running back. But in terms of your preparation for a team like this that doesn't necessarily have that one marquee guy, how does that work? How is that different than maybe how you prep for a guy like McCaffrey?
Yeah. I think when you prep for guys like McCaffrey and different things like that, you might have a couple things like scheme wise that you kind of different adjustments and stuff like that. But I think like overall, I think just the approach that not only I take, but I think just, our whole defense take is to, like respect the opponent, watch film and, know their tendencies and know what they like to do, try to, get beats on formations and stuff like that. But I think a lot of it is, just focusing on ourselves, throughout the week, making sure we practice in the right way, taking care of our bodies the right way, and just studying our opponent the right way. And, as long I feel like I think everybody would say this is I just feel like as long as we show up how we supposed to show up and play that, play the way that we supposed to show up, I just think that, things will go down the way that we want them to.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap with Sarah.
Hey Omar, I'm just curious, have you ever tried to punch a ball out either during practice or a game?
Yeah. So like I'll be like, especially like this year, you see Landman doing it all the time. So like I do it like you try to emulate that and stuff like that. And then, but I don't know, sometimes I just like getting like big hits. So like sometimes I just like putting my pads on people sometimes. Like I've been trying to be more cognizant about throwing the punch in with the hit too. So hopefully I get one or two, just uh coming up soon.
What's the challenge of the timing on that and getting that right?
Um it's pretty challenging. Like I think it looks easier than it actually is, but like especially if it's just like you on the tackle approaching the like the carrier and then having that focus to like stay on the back hip and see the ball and punch accurately at the same time. I think it's a pretty good skill that he got, and I think he's been perfecting it for a while. So um it's not easy.
What kind of, obviously forcing a turnover is a big deal for any team, but what kind of, I guess when you see it happen multiple times for Nate, getting a turnover that way, what kind of does that do for the defense and for the team?
I think it bring an energy, like it just light people up, not only because of like the turnover itself, but like you see it come to life. Like you see it in practice, like he punching at it all the time, and or he might be talking about like I'm gonna get one and stuff like that. And like it's been times where he said like we gonna get one this game or we gonna get one this drive, and then he gonna get one, So I think it just bring a energy, and a life to like the whole defense, and it just turned everybody up, to be honest.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, all set. Thanks, Omar.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all.